3, 2, 1.
Are we live? Oh, we should be. Look at that. What does that say? Click here at any time to view the post on YouTube. Look at that. Well, hello everyone.
Wow.
We're using all new tech. This should be live right now for you guys. We're on. Look at this. New chapter. We're 10 minutes early.
2019.
That's it. How's everybody doing? Look at that. Hello, people. We're just going to hang out for about 10 minutes. When we right on the hour, we'll start nice and clean. Do this as a show, and then we'll interact with the chat at some point. Look, we even get comments on the screen. But if I had eyes, I could read that.
David Prentice just said hi, ladies.
Hey, David. Excited, man. We got some cool stuff on this.
Allison, David, Kez, Lisa, Leslie, Tony, Johan, Donna, Teresa, Jean, Lynette, Justine, Chantal, Donna. Wow.
And thank you to everyone in the comments that were helping out people that were having trouble. We appreciate that. It was one of the things, we can't do any troubleshooting, and we're trying to use as little custom stuff as possible nowadays. That's why it's like, these streams are as easy as watching a YouTube video, and so it's we'll do what we can up to about an hour before these streams, but yeah, so really appreciate it that everybody was sharing links and walking people through it.
Exactly. Leslie, Christine, Christiane, Liz, Colette, Allison, Sui, Sarah, Paula.
How do I get that thing off my face? Oh, there. That's what she said. I said it to myself.
Is the official show happening?
No, we still got a few minutes. That's why
Did you actually just say an inappropriate comment? That's my whole thing. Look at this. It's a sunny. Did we accidentally both use emoji cups? I didn't know you had that one.
And are they accurate? Maybe we should switch them.
So no, they're pretty accurate, I think. Should I get my sunglasses? And wear my sunglasses with my... Does that look douchey?
You're douchey enough. We don't need that.
Look at this hair.
Right, say hi. What's going on in the chat? That's nice. So we haven't we did the little test stream the other day just to check out a lot of the new tech, and man, everything's catching up to where the Suede was technology wise, like 10 years ago.
Or technologically, yes, 10 years ago.
It's like now we got like one button streaming. We got everything's testing.
No, it's like this. Want to stream live? Open. Boom. Bloop, bloop, blop, bloop. Everything's there.
Adjusts all the stream rates. Awesome. We roll video. I can mute you at any time.
Thomas says the emoji cups disgust him.
Who's it? T. Mitchell? Well, Diamond Rig disgusts me.
Exactly.
Touche, buddy.
Boom.
Yeah, man.
You know what else disgusts me? Excuse me. All the musical guitar playing clips that I don't see being posted from T anymore.
Because he's too busy making games and building
up his
empire.
Computer.
Building up a gaming empire, which is, all joking aside, exciting to see, man. Good
Very
for you.
exciting.
I love it. I truly do.
The last game I played was
was emotional.
Oh!
Not bad, eh?
Damn, that was good.
We're back, baby.
That was fast. Does everyone know what that is, though? Is
that Mario Brothers? Oh, you were asking them? So, this is why we're never early. Because, what do we do for the next, 5-10 minutes?
We just drink coffee. Oh, my God, that's watching the clock. It's 2:53. Oh, my God. Oh, what is it?
It's almost counting ahead.
7:53.
We've been live for...
only 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's felt like an eternity.
Recording.
Ooh.
What else? So what's going on in the chat?
Patrizia says, ciao ragazzi.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Yeah, Mario. Someone's got the Mario.
I'm good.
Cups are hilarious.
Thank you, Donna. Take that, T.
Happy to those of you in the United of Kingdoms. Happy Mothering Day.
Yes, Mothering Day.
Is it... I was going to make a pretty inappropriate joke. Is it like Brexit Boxing Day? Whoops, not yet.
Oh, wow.
Too soon? Absolutely.
Seriously.
We're not going there.
That'll be fixed any day now.
Yeah, just like every other country fixing their political challenges.
Exactly. So happy day to all you mothers.
Now watch now the chat's going to be...
Yeah.
And another thing.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Hey, hey, from Daily Gotcha Wolf. Hey, from PEI.
PEI, wow.
So my granddaughter thought she was being cute and I cannot change it for 3 months. PEI. Or the PEI chapter of the brigade.
Prince Edward Island. You've been, right?
Years and years and years.
I haven't gone there yet. I was in Halifax for 8 hours. It's about as close as I got to anything on the East Coast was Nova Scotia. What?
This one. What's Lisa that? Kerr. Randy Scott. Blow me. Kisses.
It's already a thing?
That's a kisses.
Punctuation is important.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So everybody's doing well? This is exciting. This is
Allison, it was a good day. My kids bought me Stuart Mac tickets as a gift. As a gift or a punishment?
A prank?
What did you do wrong? Are you a bad mother? Oh, I'm a bad mother.
That's it. Stu said he might drop into the stream if he can fit it in with his workout schedule.
He's probably at the gym currently.
Yeah.
You know who he did? You know who he saw at the gym though?
Wonder Woman.
The girl who plays Wonder Woman.
And Idris Elba. He goes to a pretty fancy gym.
He saw who should be the future James Bond?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to...
Oh!
I may now go off on a tangent on that. I know Idris Elba has a new show.
No. Oh. Even better. Though the show looks crappy. I have to figure out... Does anybody... who in the chat has ITV?
Everyone.
Who has ITV? Somebody needs to hook me up because Kate Beckinsale has a new TV series.
Sue, hello from Ottawa.
Oh, hey, Sue. But Kate Beckinsale has a new show that's starting up.
Oh, she does. It's called...
something, and she's in the Congo or something, hunting for some husband that died, luckily enough.
Hunting for which husband? Sorry, I said husband. I didn't mean to curse.
Yes, seriously. Watch your mouth. All right.
Oh, let me just get my... that's it. Gal... Someone just said it.
Name of the show?
Gal Gadot.
What's Gal Gadot?
She's Wonder Woman.
Oh, right.
She's the person that Stu looks at.
Oh, okay.
I'll just keep my phone here just in case.
Guess what? We got 3 minutes. We'll get this rolling.
Just in case the Stu...
Oh, wants to call?
In case he calls.
Oh. He didn't answer our call, so we're not going to answer his.
Exactly. Everyone else answered a call. Everyone else that we've called in the past, like on the last stream, answered.
We've only ever called Guy during the stream.
No. We called a bunch of people the last stream. Remember our little like...
Oh, yeah, we were calling out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty funny.
Hi from Manchester. See, the whole of the UK has ITV, because ITV is like a...
Oh, it's just like a main thing?
It's like ABC or NBC.
Oh, it's not like a cable... It's not like a cable...
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's... Oh! No, I thought ITV was an online thing as well, though.
They do have ITV Hub or something. All right, you think you want to just roll this? Because we're gonna edit all this stuff off for the replay, so it's like all this yapping. Because this will be if we don't screw this up, we'll actually try and keep this as a video for like a behind the scenes thing.
So are you ready to be pros?
As much as we can, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Centered. Harness my chi.
Okay, where's the notes? Didn't we have notes? All right. What we got?
Then I can't see the chat. Okay, so when we do
that... Here, how about this? You see this thing? You move that right there. Oh, look at that. Now you can see the chat on the right-hand side of the screen.
Wait a second.
With the...
Everything, you can move everything around on a laptop screen.
Wow, technology, man.
There's a blue button in the chat that goes right to the bottom of the chat. I just discovered that.
All right, you want to do this?
All right. ITV Player Online, that's it. And they sometimes have... that's what I was thinking.
Maybe it'll make it to like Netflix or Amazon Prime over here. All right, let's do this. So we're going to do a nice clean intro and then just get down to the nitty-gritty. Dirt band.
No one knows that.
No, I don't know. So you want to do this? You want to do this?
Okay, let's do it. Okay.
All right.
Hold on.
3. A 2. 1.
Nope.
Okay. In case you don't already know, my name is Randy Young.
And I am Randy Scott from the band Cherry Suede.
And welcome to our online listening party for our new song, Rise.
No, you threw it to me there?
Let's go.
The brand new worldwide galactic premiere of our song, Rise.
Exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to not waste too much time. We're going to roll the song. This is the official audio version of the song. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about the song's inception, what the meaning behind the lyrics, some of the production choices for the music. And we got some behind-the-scenes footage from some of the people that worked on the track.
And then we will answer whatever questions you guys may have and jump into the chat. And then
so let's, you know what? Let's just shut you up and let's roll this and see what's going on. Here we go. So this is Rise.
Sometimes I feel we're living in a world on fire. We're pouring gasoline on our own funeral pyre. We can't say there ain't no other way. Oh, hope and pray that everything will be okay. We gotta come together now to make things change. We gotta rise before we burn the whole world down. Rise before the ashes hit the ground. Tomorrow's just another day away, and there ain't no point in holding on to yesterday. Let's rise, all we have is here and now. We can't wish our way back to the good old days. While we sleep with karma in the beds we made. We can't turn around and look away. No matter where you look, there's someone else in pain. And now there ain't nobody left to take the blame. We gotta rise before we burn the whole world down. Rise before the ashes hit the ground. Tomorrow's just another day away, and there ain't no point in holding on to yesterday. Let's rise, all we have is here and now. I'm reaching out for something to believe in now. I'm looking up, but there ain't nobody looking down. We gotta rise before we burn the whole world down. Rise before the ashes hit the ground. Tomorrow's just another day away, and there ain't no point in holding on to yesterday. Let's rise, all we have is here and now. Let's rise, oh let's rise, yeah let's rise, oh.
You hear the heartbeat at the end? You hear the heartbeat at the end? There's actually a heartbeat throughout the song, but we'll get into that after. So, what do you guys think? You liking it? We're liking it.
Big.
Told you
Everything's huge.
Big, big, big.
Big guitars, big drums, big vocals that took no time at all.
And yeah, so took a little bit of time. Actually, there were 4 false starts to recording this song, and we'll chat about that when we chat about the production. But the inception of Rise, and one of the reasons why we chose this as being the first release for what's going to be an upcoming series of single releases, was that it kind of represents a bit of a departure in subject matter. I think a bit of I guess an exploration into heavier elements in production, instrumentation, production elements as well. But the song itself started. We were touring probably up to about 3,500 shows by that point. We took a month off, and those of you that were kind of in and around the tour where we took that break, we took some time off, went to Italy, and it took us about 3 weeks to just really decompress. And in that last week, we really felt like we were ready to start writing, and we started writing a bunch of stuff. And Rise was one of the first ones out of there where you just came up, had this little rough riff with that ba da and da 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 and da da and da da da, and then just kind of mumble a few ideas over top, and I bring it to him, and he's like, "What do you think?" He's like, "Awesome,
I can work with this.
I can work with this. Give me an hour." And he puts on his sunglasses.
Actually,
puts the little rough idea on his iPod, and he goes outside, lies in a tanning bed, and that's how he works his lyrics.
Well, a tanning bed under the natural sun. It wasn't an outdoor booth or anything like that. This was after, again, like 3,500 shows and 10 straight years of being basically on the road, and we needed that little time to just stop for a second. And that was my phone. And then. So it's something about the hot weather. It was beautiful outside. It was sunny. I was absorbing all kinds of vitamin D, and I would come in going, I want the song to be about this.
Fire. We just needed fire.
Yeah, and I would come in and go, what do you think of this subject matter?
It's like, God bless climate change.
Yeah, like, that's great. What do you think of this for a first verse? And he went like this. All right. Keep going. Whatever you're doing, get your ass back outside on that tanning bed. Soak up some more sun. Make it look like you're doing nothing. So I would just sit there.
What he's failing to mention is I'm just sitting at a table about 5 feet away with a constant bottle of wine open, just working on other stuff. So, yeah.
Italy.
Yeah.
And so, basically, this song is kind of a reflection of our experience and what we've been seeing in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And on our travels, either here in the States, in the UK, anywhere we've gone to, it's kind of a worldwide kind of message.
Yeah, we're in the middle of touring, and we had been out of the studio for a while, out of the writing habits for a while, and not to take anything away from the music that we've done to date, but we're playing music and subject matter and a lot of stuff that just kind of felt detached from where we were as people and as artists at the time, and we just kind of wanted to take a step back from that and realign and take a look at our surroundings and just how we're just living in this divided culture, and this is not necessarily political. This is just in terms of the haves and have-nots. It's just this us and them mentality, and just it seems like there's this bigger and bigger and bigger gap between people doing the right thing or just taking action towards bettering, whether it's the world as a whole, whether it's their world around them locally, whether it's some, just like impacting one person's day, and just making a positive change. And I think that's, that's kind of for me, the call to action to this song is that it's not necessarily a political call to action. Or
it could be if you want to attach it to that.
If that's something that you feel would bring positive change to you,
If you're passionate about that, then you can pull all kinds of political connotations out of that lyric. Yeah. And look at you.
What?
For a guy who never listens to the lyrics, that was pretty well summed up.
We've been working on the song for a year.
Wow, you've been hearing my voice a lot.
I've heard the lyrics quite a bit in this one.
Yeah, I had to sum it up. I had to write it down because I want to phrase it just right because it exactly sums up the way I and we feel is the message of this song. I said it's a rallying call to action against everything that is holding us back as a society from reaching our highest ideals, and that just being. There's a whole bunch of issues that are just holding us back from being our best selves, whether it's the complete incompetence of whatever government you happen to live under, let's say.
Any government.
Any government at this point. Or just not being able to be your best self. There's a lot of we could be better as people. I think on a kind of a global scale.
I know for a fact you could be.
I was just about to say
I'm
could be a better person.
I'm pretty damn perfect, but like you need some work.
I could be a better person.
Exactly, and that went. That message we wanted to echo in the music as well, and how we approached that. So there were a lot of things, and we're going to show you some behind the scenes clips of where it tended to be a very dense production. We really pushed ourselves in a lot of different areas. There's production elements that, for anybody that's known us to date, you've never heard us do. And in particular, we have this middle section. So I guess we can maybe pivot to that. Is the production itself also ties into the lyric content, and you have this constant tension, onslaught of it just feels like there's this never-ending
tension.
Yeah, build of tension, and you look for that release, and it's almost like the release into that middle section. We called it our descent into hell, where it's just like it just releases, and you're into this. You could be a dream state, it could be a nightmare state, whatever you want it to be. And we really wanted
atmospheric.
Exactly. And we really wanted to go somewhere with that. And we're going to roll a clip now where we enlisted a local producer in London, George Charter. We call him Lonely George. We bust his balls, probably a little too much, but really talented. He does a lot of dubstep. Does a lot of drum and bass music.
Which is our main wheelhouse.
No, but the whole point was we wanted to challenge us, and we wanted to bring new elements. And there's a lot of great craft going on in a lot of different genres. And it's just to bring this total left turn to the way we think. And we kind of gave them an idea of what we want to go with the middle section. And I had all these guitar effects and a lot of stuff already kind of in place and back and forth, where you just had all these elements just kind of, we call ear candy, which is just kind of going on. And
he was great for that.
Yeah.
We don't like having to guide anyone that we work with. We don't like having to guide them in a certain direction. We just said, we're thinking something like this. Give us whatever you're thinking. And the stuff that George brought back, not to compliment him, because we try to do that as little as
nobody
possible.
ever tell him. Yeah, George. Hopefully you're not watching.
Exactly. But what he brought back was it was so out of left field for us. So we've never done a section like that, and we wanted to. We love that it kind of embraces a bit of a modern sound without going too far.
So we'll roll the clip and we break down some of it, and George will explain it himself, and you'll get a bit of an idea of what's kind of going on in that section, a bit out of context, because once you take it out of context, you'll kind of maybe hear some things that you didn't hear in the mix. So I'll roll that now. Right. So we're in a secret London location with Lonely George. He lives in this like dark kind of studio. We used to call him Handsome George, but now we call you Lonely George.
They don't let me out.
No, we don't. No. So George, we got George to do the middle section of Rise, and we basically told him we wanted it to feel like you were descending into hell, which is really like what it's like when you work with us, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel like that on a daily basis with you, to be honest.
All right, so maybe play a little bit of this and walk us through some of the stuff that you did in this really cool middle section.
Okay, cool. So.
A lot of parts in there.
Yeah, there are.
I love this.
Yeah.
If you listen close, there's actually an explosion when it comes back in underneath. So what are you thinking? What pieces are in here? What's all this business going on?
I mean, you got the explosion here.
I love that. Do it again. Play it one more time.
You got a sub boom on top of that. And then even more, actually. We have loads of stuff. Just making it huge.
Yeah.
Giving Pete a really hard time.
Yeah.
So basically, I got like a New York style kind of drum beat that I programmed, and then just used a lot of overdrive and saturation and stuff, and just basically screwed it up so it was really heavy. couple of various different layers on top. And then some kind of just effecty stuff.
So if you listen close with headphones, you can usually hear a lot of this stuff going on. Right?
Yeah, you can hear a lot more with headphones on.
We call it ear candy.
I put all sorts of cool stuff in there for Randy. So I also put a heartbeat in there. So if anyone can grab it out in the mix, then you win a prize that Randy's going to disclose at a later time.
Yeah, nobody gets a prize. Okay, just play the heartbeat. Yeah.
That's real low.
I'm reaching out for something to believe in now. I'm looking up, but there ain't nobody looking down. We gotta ride.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's how we did the middle eight, really.
I love it.
Awesome.
Did you have fun doing it?
It was horrendous.
Really?
No, it was great.
Ah,
It was great fun. It's always great fun with Cherry Suede.
it is. Everybody say thank you, George. Thank you, George. Is it? Oh, there you go. All right.
Wow.
Thank you, George. Hey?
What a champion that man is.
The amount of abuse that poor guy gets. It's not only me, and we'll introduce you to Pete, who mixed the song after. George and Pete worked together. They're a bit of a team there in London. And it was just nonstop hurling abuse.
Yes.
But he did such a great job, and it was
Without George, Pete would never get coffee.
exactly. But anyway, you have George that did the middle section. I guess now would be a good time to mention some of the people who worked on the track. You don't get to see a lot of the credits anymore, so we thought, this would be a good chance to share some of that information. So on drums, we have a gentleman by the name of Matt Musty. Matt's played with Keith Urban. He's played with Blake Shelton, Gwen Stefani. Tours with Jake Clemens.
Jake Clemens.
Yeah, also
so close to the E Street man.
Grace Potter and the Nocturnals. It's just a ton of stuff.
So where does Matt Musty currently reside?
So he's based in Los Angeles, and he worked with another Top Call drummer, Blair Cinta, at their studio. So we had two of the Top Call LA drummers on site working on the drum tracks and even all the tuning, all that stuff. Bass player by the name of Eric Holden. Eric played with us on the first album.
Yes, but we don't call him Eric Holden. That's not his professional name.
We call him H-Bomb.
H-Bomb.
Yeah, and so Eric, we played with way back during our days in Los Angeles, and Eric played a lot on the first album, and we brought him back to do a lot of this stuff.
He's played with just
everyone,
countless people.
Everyone, yeah, and he's always on the road. Zach Provo, who's played on the keyboards on every album.
He's played on all of the albums.
Yeah, all of the albums, exactly. And absolutely brilliant and talented musician. And all these guys just bring so much. They show up to they start the song, and it's like Randy was saying before, it's like we give them guidance, and then they just bring it to life, almost like an actor bringing a script to life. You don't want to over direct, and you want their personalities to come through, and they bring it in spades.
And like their musical experience and history is so close and so perfectly woven into ours. That we just say, it's in this key, take a listen and let me know what feels right to you. And they start playing and you just go, yeah, that's exactly what's supposed to be there.
It sounds like a song.
For us.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a very fulfilling experience as writers to hear a song come to life with these world-class musicians. And we also had the chance, Pete Dowsett, who mixed it, we're going to roll a clip from him. He gets behind some of the tracks because I'll tend to do a lot of the tracking on my own, but then leave it to George. George did a lot of the cleanup, and Pete basically makes all the pieces work together in a mix. And we tend to We use a lot of tracks.
A lot of tracks.
Yeah, so I'll let the clip. We explain it all in the clip, but it's a pretty dense song. There's a lot of elements going on. And last but not least, there's a mastering process, and this was mastered by a gentleman by the name of Howie Weinberg. And Howie's done.
We don't even say that. Don't even say anything. Just Google Howie Weinberg, because you'll be as amazed as we were when you look at all the albums he's done and go, I have all of those albums.
He's old school, and he's done everything from all the Journey to all the Def Leppard to one of my favorite albums of all time, Power Station album.
Also, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, one of my favorite albums.
Nevermind, all the Depeche Mode stuff.
Beastie Boys
to tons and tons of recent stuff. So
he's a legend,
absolute legend, and just an absolute pleasure to have him working on. And he's the final touches to make it to really add the final polish. But we want to show you. Pete was there for. I warned him going in. A lot of guys will come in and mix a song in like 4 hours. You come to him like, okay, I hear the tracks. Okay, cool. Let's get some drums. Let's get some bass. And okay, cool. That sounds good. Okay, move on. And we warned Pete going in. It's like, we think it's going to be about a 4-day process. He's like, nah, don't worry about it, guys.
I'll get it done.
Yeah, but it was longer than he thought. And this was after spending several days with George, just even cleaning up the tracks. And after months of recording the idea. So this clip's a little long. It gets a little nerdy. So those of you that really enjoy some of the production process, Pete even goes into some of the technical aspects as well.
And I sometimes glaze over.
Exactly. And if you guys have questions for that stuff, even after, if you're even interested, feel free to reach out. And but for me, this is kind of like it's the guitar magazine information that you used to be able to find all questions about the process, and we're kind of condensing this all in one spot, so you can come at the song from the emotional aspect and then some of the technical aspects.
It's like when you used to get the album and get the booklet. You used to be like, who engineered it? Where was it recorded? Who played what? Some of that information I truly miss about recordings, about music. So that's why we're trying to share a little bit of that with you guys, because we know some people are like, where was this done? How did you do it? Where was it? Who played on what? Blah, blah, blah. So
we break down, we go into the drum sound, we go into the guitar sound, we go into the vocals, all the stuff that we really wanted to bring to this chapter of Cherry Suede, where really we came into it going, big guitars, big drums, big vocals, and just we want it to sound huge. And so this is Pete, who based in London, works at Abbey Road, teaches at Abbey Road.
Say that again.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't do it at Abbey Road. We almost tracked at Abbey Road for this.
Which road does he work at again?
The Abbey
Road.
But and then we did this. We mixed it at his studio in I guess northwest London. I don't want to give away the location, but
don't give it away. He's about to blow up. He's
anyway,
a star.
There's Pete Dowsett talking about the mix for Rise. Are we the most difficult and picky people you've worked with? How many notes? We're on day 4 of a mix now?
Yeah, version 2.5. So, and for anyone watching, that's 1.0, 1.1, right through up to 2.5. So yeah, it's been a long old trek.
With King Randy from his bed at home and probably scotch in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Issuing notes.
Yeah, bed hair and everything is true rock and roll. Yeah. While we're over here in the UK pulling our hair out at weird noises he's finding that I'm sure don't actually exist.
So just to give you a little background on that, we've actually spent hours looking for noises that Randy's hearing in the mix that none of us hear, yet he says they're there.
I think he needs an exorcism, to be honest. I think that must be what it is.
Awesome. All right, so loading up the session. How many tracks? So we came in at a lean. I think when George started the editing, we were probably at 180 something, 160. We're down to what now?
I guess 120. So we've trimmed it down by a third, and still it's quite a mammoth session. I can normally get things down to about 40 tracks for a mix down from maybe 100 tracks to begin with. But this one,
if you have tracks, you got to use them, man.
Yeah, we're at about 154, so this is grinding this, even though it's quite a fast-spec'd Mac Pro, down to its knees. So, I've had to freeze a number of channels, and in fact, just in the middle 8 section, we're at 22 effects tracks just in the middle 8 section, so thanks, George.
Good work, George. Way to not do your work.
Yep.
Yeah.
That could have surely been 4, right? That could have been 4 tracks. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're just prepping for the surround mix at some point.
Well, yeah, we've got to do an Atmos mix.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be worth it otherwise, right?
All right. So some of the key things we were focusing on going into this stuff were big drums, big guitars, big vocals, and maybe just give a little insight as to how you went about getting us there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those situations where you want the drums to still sound natural and live, but you want them to seem larger than life at the same time. So making sure that definitely still sounds like a band performance rather than something a bit more clinical that you might hear sometimes these days. So it's just finding that blend between just super powerful, super big, and also natural. So we've gone through and we've added a lot of brightness to the individual raw tracks, but we've also layered several samples along with the drum sound that have been pitched to the tuning of the original drums. Particularly once you start gating close mics, you want to kind of add in that ambience. So we've done that with a mixture of using an Eventide 2016 room type of sound, which is a very classic kind of half a second ambience. And then we've actually added some extra ambient samples on top of that to just really get the sustain out. So what you've got is the majority of the attack phase being the real natural drums, and then we're elongating the sustain with those samples, so you get that blend like I was talking about before.
This is why it takes us a year to do one song, because we get into details like that. Can you actually solo some of the drums on their own and hear what they sound like?
Yeah. So these
you won't get all the body of it on this little phone camera, but you'll hear it in the mix. Cool.
And if I just were to take away these kind of ambient samples out of there and kind of mute that that reverb, you'll hear that you've got the punch, but you don't have the kind of length and the kind of weight to things.
Yeah, it sounds closer to the session as opposed to like that huge ambient, almost like recorded in a warehouse sound.
Cool.
Sweet. Now let's get some good. Let's cut to the chase and get to guitars.
The important part, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guitar channels on this mix, and part of it was about blending these in such a way that you got the explosion in the chorus right. And one of the big challenges is, because there's quite a lot of guitars throughout the song, is, well, how do you make it explode in the chorus? So that's a mixture of kind of panning them in the verses a little bit and letting them go wide in the chorus, as well as kind of overdriving the guitars a little less in the verse. So obviously you've got the amp sounds that as they were recorded, but then extra couple of little distortions on top of that to just give some extra bite after the fact. And yeah, just careful panning and making sure that we did a lot of automation on some of the arpeggio parts and some of the cleaner parts, just so that they were always staying right where they needed to be in the mix.
Yeah, and because when I was layering them, right, like the idea was a lot of them were to act as one, but even when you're doing that, it's tough to get the clarity between all of that, and it overpowers even the vocals and stuff. So you did a lot of little surgery and a little look at all that.
So you can see all of the automation going on, and just little bumps and rides whenever it felt necessary. And this is one of the things that, the more acoustic instruments or amplified guitars and things like that you're using, the more you've got to ride things around, and it's in some ways more difficult to keep a consistent level on something that has live instruments in it. So it's just necessary to spend a bit of time, especially when it's so dense, just making sure that you can go, okay, this arpeggio comes in now, so I'm just going to bump that up, particularly downbeats and little stabs and things, and just making sure that they poke right through, which is what all of this automation does.
If you keep talking like that, people are going to think we know what we're doing. So you need to dumb it down.
Yeah, I'm just touching stuff until it feels right.
Funny, Randy kind of says that as well, but I think he's referring to other things.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, hence the bed hair and the scotch.
Exactly.
Had a long night. Yeah.
Can we hear some guitars on their own?
Yep.
Sweet.
Cool, so that's the basic guitar sound, and if you look at the mixer screen, you'll see pannings move around and levels bouncing around as it plays. And you see that the panning on these wide guitars in the pre-chorus and the verses there, you know, in at about 40% and explode wide helps to give you that explosive sound. And, you know, we've automated up some of the more cleaner parts. And also, one other thing to notice is that on wall of sound guitars, you really want to like ease off on the gain individually, so that when they're all stacking up, you get the gain that way, and that helps to get the wide image. If you let's say you've only got 2 tracks of guitars and you put a lot of gain on them, you don't get that same feeling. Whereas dial back the gain maybe 10-20% and you're adding it on all of these channels, you'll see it accumulate and multiply rather than adding. Okay.
And that's something experience teaches you pretty quick. Like you start learning, like albums like AC/DC, they can sound really heavy, but in fact they only have very little distortion on a lot of the guitars.
Yep.
And it punches you in the face that way.
And so if we just start listening to some of these, this is the main rhythm. But then when we add the wides. Telecaster. But then sometimes you lack some of the high-end sparkle, the note definition. So we've got some cleaner parts then, and some other bits that help to accentuate the notes that are actually played. Those arpeggios that are kind of soft in the mix, they're not the main focal point, but they just help to keep momentum going as well. Yeah. It's really important to layer things.
Yeah, like always in that upper layer, I always have that just kind of, it's more about movement and little ear candy than it is about being a main part.
And the other thing you'll notice by looking at the guitars, we've got, you know, some of these extra distortions and stuff, but if we look at at some of these guitars, you'll see that these dips around 2 to 3K where guitars can get very fizzy and take away from where the vocal energy is. So in some of these, and particularly the main rhythms and the loudest guitars, you've got to cut some areas for the vocals to live, and typically guitars can get very whistly in that range, and getting rid of some of that just allows the vocal to sit on top of them. So you can see that some of these cuts are being done to just give each part its own little space. And particularly on this Telecaster here, I've given it a bump at about 1.5K, because this was the guitar, the Telecaster, that I wanted to have a lot of energy to it and to be much more of the thing that sat on top of the big rhythms, and giving it that little bump in the mid-range helped to sit it on top of the wall of other guitars, whilst at the same time staying away from the vocal area.
Nice.
Cool, so we're going to take a listen to the backing vocals in the last chorus and outro. And, you know, one of the challenges here was to keep having the backing vocals step up, so that by the outro, when there's some more harmonies, is that really feels like it finishes off the song nicely. But all of the other choruses, particularly the third chorus after the breakdown, still feel like they've got a wall of backing vocals there as well. So if we play these, you'll hear that the backing vocals have that kind of wall of sound, almost Mutt Lange 1980s style backing vocals. So I'll play that.
Lots of layers, lots of layers.
Rise before the ashes hit the ground.
then towards the outro you'll hear some lines that kind of interweave with each other, some harmonies descending while others ascend. So cool. So you probably saw quite a raise in the automation here to just really get the energy in at the right place. So about 2/3 of the way through each phrase, there was a moment for the backing vocals to really shine over everything else, because there was less lead vocal there, and that's really when I was pushing them up. And that helps to give you the impression that the backing vocals are loud all the time while still allowing the lead vocal to be on top of them. They're also quite airy and very bright. So I've actually got them, most of them frozen at the moment, which means it's not taking the CPU resources. So I'm going to unfreeze one of them so I can show you a couple of the plugins that's on there. So if we look, we've got basically a standard EQ, digital EQ, with some notches here at specific frequencies where you were getting build up between all of these layers of backing vocals, and also areas where it was competing with the lead vocal. And now doing this many is more than I would usually do, but because there's so many layers of them, it was necessary to create more space. That's going into it's an LA2A emulation by Waves, which is basically leveling out the overall sound. It's not attacking the peaks, it's kind of leveling the whole thing. Then that's going into quite a strong de-esser, so that's going to get rid of all of the S's and the sibilant sounds in the high end. And that's quite important with these backing vocals, because there's so many of them. When you've got so many S's, they tend to take over, and you really want the S's on the lead vocal and less on the backing vocals.
And we de-essed even when we stacked them too, so that for exactly that reason.
And the more compression you add, the more you need to keep continually de-essing, because it brings out all of those other areas of the sound. And from here, this is kind of like a little bit of a secret sauce.
Secret sauce.
So basically, when you used to use tape machines all the time to record music, one of the problems you had was the noise floor was rather high. So you basically ended up with some hiss and some artifacts that you wouldn't necessarily get with today's recording techniques with digital audio workstations. So,
old school tape machines like this. There you go.
And one of the things that people did was to actually add loads and loads of bright top end into the recording part of the chain, so that when it was being stored on tape, you had all of this excess top energy, which would kind of cover up all the hiss on the top end. And then when you actually reproduce a sound after it's been recorded, ready for mix down, you would then reduce that high end to put it back to a normal level. And these, there was some noise reduction built in to many tape machines made by Dolby, and basically people realised that if you use them as a kind of effect in itself, you could get these super bright backing vocals. You know, you're looking at your Def Leppard style backing vocals, and this plugin basically emulates the sound of that Dolby noise reduction unit, which are really bright.
John Lennon used it on his vocal all the time, I think, with Phil Spector and
that. But one of the necessary things with that is that you end up with some maybe some upper mid frequencies rather than the super highs we're going for that come in. So I've got two of the plugins here that are basically going through and removing some of those harshness frequencies, but I'm wanting to retain everything in this super high, 8 to 10k plus in those vocals.
All this just to play 3-chord rock. Yeah!
Cool, so we've got the lead vocals here, and I'm just going to play you what they sound like in the second chorus.
Shh, don't tell Randy. Vocals by themselves.
We gotta rise before we burn the whole world down. Rise before the ashes hit the ground. Tomorrow's just another day away, and there ain't no point in holding on to yesterday. Let's rise, all we have is here and now.
He's leaning into that too. It's
yeah.
You got to. It's like being on a small stage in a giant stadium, it's like everything has to be so over exaggerated to kind of cut through a mix, and then we got to go to this point to make it even bigger, right?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the big problems you've got with almost any song, regardless of the genre, is that you've got so much instrumentation that the lead vocal is competing with. So the lead vocal has to sit on top. Generally, in most songs, it's a main focal point, it's a main top line, and the lyrical message needs to be clear. So you not only have to do a load of compression to kind of bring down the dynamic range so that it sits on top naturally, but you've also got to make it sparkly, exciting, and generally, things like the ends of words need to be pushed and ridden with automation, because naturally, obviously, the ends of words are going to be quieter, but the rest of the music's still going to be blaring. So you can't go so far with compression to bring those out naturally. So I'm trying to bring out the loud parts, and the middle parts of these words with compression. And then trying to bring out the tail ends of them with automation, which you'll see. So if we look at the lead vocal bus here, which is where all of the different sections of the song might have their own lead vocal channel, and then they go into a bus here. So I've actually got two main compressors here, and this is kind of like the classic approach to lead vocal
76 LA2A.
Yep. So the 1176 here is a very, very fast compressor, so it's there to capture the peaks of the sound. So anything like that jumps out initially in the transient stage will kind of get compressed down to keep them more under control. And then this LA2A, it's similar to the Waves one that you saw on the backing vocals. That's there to level out the middle parts of the sound and the main body of things. So the combination of these two keeps the vocal in much more of a stable place. So it's not moving forward and back against the other instruments. There's also a couple of other things,
And the movement becomes relative too. Like once that dynamic range just squeezed down, now even little movements against that can really feel big, right? Like sometimes it's just a little move of squish your head there a little bit, but it's like a little move of a fader here and there just really can change the whole perception of the mix.
Yeah, so basically what we've done is the vocals were like this before, and you were concentrating on getting the right performance, the right energy between soft and loud, but when you know that you have so many other things to compete with, while the vocal has to sit in a much smaller range, and then what we're doing with the automation is then just moving that up and down, so it's constantly on top of the music.
So we'll just say, Randy, your vocals are now like this. Just like that. Tiny.
And so, and then we've got a ton of effects on these as well. So when you hear this, you'll hear 2 or 3 different types of reverb and a couple of different types of delays. So if we look at the aux ends here, we've got a bus that's here as a kind of parallel vocal sparkle, which if we look at it is that dopamine again, the noise reduction. But if you put that just like on top of the aux without it being in parallel like this, it can get too bright and too obtrusive. So I'm kind of blending that in at a much smaller amount than I did on the backing vocals. We've got an extra parallel compressor, which is just going to really like crush the vocal and is there to kind of just solidify things. We've got what I call the smooth reverb. That's an EMT 250, which is one of the first kind of digital algorithmic reverbs. EMT were famous for making the plate reverb that you saw in tons of studios. I've got a bright reverb, which is it's the Lexicon 480L, the one made by Relab, the plugin.
Yes.
And then we've got the small reverb, which is actually my kind of multi-purpose reverb that some of the drums were going to, some of the guitars, which is the Eventide 2016 room ambience, which is to try and give it the sense that everything is tying together in the same place, like a live performance. Because when you're mixing and you've got so many tracks and they've all been recorded individually or in small groups, you want to kind of give that sense of cohesion, which is what that's doing. And then we've got a slap delay, which will thicken out. You're not meant to hear it as a kind of definite repeat, but it kind of smooths out the sound and kind of, again, helps to thicken the vocals. And then we've got a quarter note delay. So that's the obvious repeating delay that you're hearing when this is soloed. So there's a bunch of things going on under the hood to, not only make the vocal larger than live, but also to sit really well on top of everything else.
So if anybody asks, this was done in one take, live off the floor, okay?
Exactly.
And we'll have you sign an NDA and then that's it. That's none of it. This is, you saw nothing here. One take off the floor. Thanks, Pete, man. That's awesome. Thank you for such great work on the song. No thanks to George. We spent half our time just cleaning up all the mistakes George makes. Lonely George.
Oh man, I mean the amount of time back and forward. I think I've ended up fixing some of it myself anyway. Sometimes it gets too difficult to just
George, you're fired. All right, thanks, man.
Wicked. Cheers.
Well, that was
mind-blowingly.
Good thing he didn't dig deep below the surface.
Oh my gosh, I need a nap.
No, but it's like we said, it can get a little nerdy and a little complex. But we often get a lot of questions about how we approach the recording, and sometimes even it's like, "Where's the new song? Why is it taking so long?" And you can see we really dig in deep with detail, and we're, like we said, we're fortunate enough to work with some great musicians and some great engineers and helping the production team to realize the sounds that are in our heads, I guess. And it's not usually a straight path from A to B.
What was that?
Just what? The sound in your head? But really the biggest takeaway was all I kept hearing was that everyone was saying you're not that bright. I just kept hearing like we needed to add sparkle to you, and you're just not that bright.
I'm not sparkly. Look at these jazz hands.
Anyways, we hope you enjoyed a lot of that stuff. Let's jump into the chat, grab a couple of questions, and then we'll roll the song one more time for you guys and let you get out of here.
Okay, we're going to randomly just pick some questions. We're going to scroll back a little bit, and then we'll see if anything jumps out.
It's like an AMA meets behind the music. That's what I was saying, right? It's like you get all different aspects. What do we got?
Simone?
Okay.
Do you sing all the backing separately as well? Yes.
Yeah.
Every backing, every layer upon layer upon layer upon layer is built one at a time to get those big stacks. So
often what we'll do is we'll do a bit of a sketch where Randy will have an idea of how he wants the harmony to sound, and it's the notes that you choose and the order in which they're arranged in a stack that gives the impression. And every single choice that you make changes the impression. And sometimes we'll do a sketch of like, okay, this note, this note, this note, and this note, and be like, sounded better in our heads, and sounds it's sometimes a little too jazzy or a little too, like 50s sounding. And so we find that stack of notes that represent the sound that we want at that time in relation to the other instruments. Sometimes the vocal idea is cool, and then we'll take out other instruments, and so that will end up taking 2 steps forward and another step back. And then the stacks, like in that type of aesthetic, you're often hearing sometimes 24 to 48 voices per note. So Randy will be there and we'll just loop vocals for sometimes a couple hours, and then you get what ends up being 200, 300 tracks of vocals that all come down.
You heard that right.
Yeah. And that's for real. And it just like you would have an orchestra and you would have sometimes 23 violins. The sound of 23 instruments doing the same thing together, the way they interact and cancel and kind of imply all these extra harmonics is all part of the sound. And then we added some of that was the dopamine, which is the Dolby A effect to give it that air and that sizzle. If you listen close, you hear it like in the mix.
I love the sound of that.
It gives it an airy sound. So yeah, that's all layered.
And despite my brawn and my machismo, if you will, the voice is still a very kind of delicate instrument. So after you've been doing layers of vocals, and you got to do them, it's a rock song. You're not doing light, airy, rise. You really got to hit it hard, so it sounds like you're delivering with some energy. You do that for a good 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. You have to take a break. You can only do so many at a time before it starts the voice just gets fatigued. Then you hear the raspiness and the tiredness on the track, and you don't want that.
Yeah, so it becomes part of scheduling too. So often then we'll switch to something else or work on some guitars or all that. So you cycle through this stuff. And some of those vocals are also meant to be felt and not heard. Like when you heard the chorus, now that you've heard some of the notes, you might actually hear them if you're listening closely with headphones in the mix. But like you can hear that the deep octave down below.
The whole world down.
That's not really meant to be felt as part of the sound, but it's meant to give body. So when it's sitting in such a stack of guitars and drums, it it helps give some weight to the vocal without you really hearing it. And if you go back to some bands that do use a lot of vocals, like the Queens of the world and all that, if you hear some of the a cappella tracks, you'll hear a lot of that all over it.
Yeah. Just do you want to slap delay ? That's probably more your wheelhouse. Like, explain a slap delay to someone who wouldn't.
Slap delay is a very very it's a very very short echo. So it's like a, whereas like just a medium delay is like, and a long is like. It's the speed of the delay. So they call it slap because it was called slap back. If you're ever in a room of a certain size or a
even
sound
sometimes in a stadium, and you hear it bounce back off the wall.
It's a distinct echo, usually about 100 milliseconds or so after the original sound.
OSP 175 RS. Have you zoned out? Sometimes, just not today.
There was a lot of information in that last one. That's why I left it last too, because.
And we appreciate all the comments. We know that's like some of it. Like this is very technical stuff.
Yeah.
Probably more. This is more technical stuff than.
Like Pete actually has a degree in acoustics and teaches recording at Abbey Road. So that's why you kind of hear me pulling him back sometimes. But Pete and I spent a lot of hours in the studio doing the mix and working on that stuff together. And you have to get into that level of detail. And I know for me as a musician, I love that level of detail in some of the records that I hear. So we just wanted to have some of that available for those of you that do like this level of detail.
Exactly. I don't know, Tony Hart, what guitars did you play on this track?
All of the guitars.
Honestly,
the guitars. So if you've ever seen us live, I have this Sunburst, like it's a Strat, but it has a bit of a Les Paul sound to it. So it's like a heavy Strat. The Telecaster, that butterscotch Bruce Springsteen, Randy's Telecasters in there. There's a Gretsch guitar in there that's doing all these little raking sound. All the clean stuff that you hear on the top is a very classic Gretsch. George Harrison played a Gretsch, Chet Atkins, and then an actual Les Paul detuned in the chorus. And you heard him talking about these wide guitars that explode and go wide. Those are two Les Pauls, left and right. It was called a drop D tuning to get a nice heavy sound.
Yeah, so not detuned like as in not in tune, just drop down in pitch.
Yeah, and then that's layered, and again, and there's my acoustic is also in there, and so I did for every track you heard, I also did a double. So you would do the full performance, put that together, do an exact mirror of that performance. So we always had the option of having it left and right. They have to be distinctly different so that you can perceive two different instruments, and some of that was used, some of it wasn't, but they were all meant to act as one. Just like, again, like an orchestra, it wasn't all meant to be different parts. Some of them play different parts, but some of them are like this heavy guitar, that guitar, and this acoustic are all meant to sound like one guitar that doesn't exist in the real world. It's just a layer of textures, like you layer colors to create a deeper color or a deeper blend of something.
Why did you come to the UK to do this?
The recordings were done
internationally.
Yeah, everywhere. Part of this was done. What you're hearing, all the amplifiers, everything that this was an exercise in using modern technology. No guitar amplifiers are real. They're all digital models. Everything, even the microphone that Randy's using is a digital modeling mic, so we can use a replica of any vintage microphone we want at any point. So we wanted to take the limitations of a recording studio out of the process to allow us to be creative anywhere and at any time, and still deliver a song that has a major recording studio sound. And then finishing it off in England was because we were working with Pete and George on that. It was just there. We connected with them on an artistic level and just on a personal level, and it just seemed like the right fit for this. And and that's why I'm in London for that.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of the song production? For me, it was when it was done. But it was really kind of pushing ourselves into a sound that we haven't done on any of the albums yet. Like we specifically wanted drums to sound a certain way, and we like that. It's hard to do. Like the hardest thing to do is to get a song to sound the way that it does in your head. And sometimes the challenge that you get to is you don't know why it's not sounding that way. You think you're doing everything right. You're going, I don't know, I'm using the right guitar tone. Everything sounds right. How come it doesn't sound the way I want it to? And then you don't even know what to fix and what to tweak. So for us, it's like getting that kind of big modern rock sound, yet maintaining a lot of that the kind of the humanity in the performances. You really hear that it's a drummer playing drums. The guitars are being played. There's nothing.
Yeah, it was a very conscious consideration to not go in and do something just because we could, right? Like we weren't overcorrecting things. We weren't using technology in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to write a song that isn't in our wheelhouse. Like we love big choruses. We love big guitars. We weren't about to change anything about the kind of music we want to do. We just want it to sound exactly like it does in our head in a big kind of, when you write a song, the whole thing behind the song is it's meant to be kind of an anthem. It's kind of there's a lot of...
And you can see how many layers of the process had to go into it to get it like that. Because hearing something sound so big out of two small speakers or even a speaker on your phone, it's an illusion, right? Just like making a movie is an illusion. And so you have to take all these random moments that are collected over a year or so and turn it into this moment that seems like it's happening right in front of you at the point you press play on your iPod or on your laptop. And that's the thing. It's like we started, actually, it was written in May of 2017, right? Or 18? 2018. First recording was November of 2018 in London, and with a different team. Pete was there and George was there for the session, and that was thrown away. It wasn't the sound that we were looking for, and we redid it with two other teams after that, and then decided on this last pass as being the foundation upon which we're going to build the rest of the record.
Yeah, and just like not hearing the right. Not knowing what you need to fix. Sometimes that right sound, you don't even know what it is. You just know it when you hear it. You hear a certain player, a certain musician play something a certain way. Like John Bonham is one of probably the greatest rock drummer of all time. But in the Rolling Stones, it doesn't work. In Guns N' Roses, it doesn't work. In Metallica, it doesn't work. And vice versa with all those guys. Are you both perfectionists where everything has got to be approved by both of you?
Perfection's a hard word, but I think
it's got to be perfect to us.
Yeah, the tracks are far from perfect, and we didn't want them. It's very easy I shouldn't say very easy, but it's you can use technology to help perfect them, and we're not anti-technology, as you can see. There's more computer DSP on this song than launching a rocket to the moon, but in terms of going for timing perfection, like the beauty lies in the imperfections and the moments that happen that you couldn't control and the ones you chose to leave behind. And so that was a big instruction to everyone that was working on this, was to push yourself, bring yourself and your personality to whatever you're doing at any point. And Randy and I are lucky that we tend to start with a similar vision. We have different elements that we bring to it, going like Randy will come up with ideas and vocal ideas and guitar ideas and go, hey, try this and try that. What do you think about that? And it would start a whole path of ideas that were never there in the beginning, and vice versa. And but we both tend to know when to stop, where we're like, that's it. It's not perfection for perfection's sake. It's like Randy said, it's having a vision or sound that we talked about when we started. And sometimes that happens from the first riff. Like we knew when it was like da-da and da-da-da and da-da and da, and this rough idea of the chorus, we knew it had to sound like this. Then it was like, how do we get it to sound like that? Yeah. And that started a path of 18 months.
Yeah, it's not about getting anything approved. It's about like, I have this idea, what do you think? And then he might go, that's cool, but what if you use this chord instead? And I'm like, that's a much better idea. Now I'll do this. And he'll come up with a riff and go, what do you think of this note? Da, da, da. I'm like, what if you went to that third note and went here instead of there? Oh, yeah, I see what you're doing. So it's always this process.
And you heard us joking about the him hearing sounds. But that was actually a back and forth thing where there's three of us going, I don't know what you're hearing. But we took the time. We did take several hours to try and hunt down the sound that he was hearing, and we eventually found it. It was this sound buried that he heard in the whole mix of my acoustic, and it was just how I hit two chords right before the first chorus, where it's just the way the pick hit the strings. You hear it bouncing out of the track, and we went in and fixed it. But that's the joke we made, where he's hearing sounds that nobody heard. We couldn't hear it. Dug through all the tracks, found this sound, took it out, and he's like, there it is. It's gone.
Exactly.
So we respect the process. Generally it's like you have to trust somebody's instinct, because you may not know what the problem is, but if something's bothering you, you got to find what it is in the song and fix it, or you'll live with it forever, and you'll never be able to listen to it again.
Yeah, that's what I had. One more point I was going to make super quick. In terms of making things perfect, like you said about technology being amazing. Yeah, technology can fix anything these days. So we've actually heard of a story from a friend of ours where they were in studio with this amazing drummer, recording a drum part for a song. And the producer was he had it in his mind, because everything like in kind of the pop world, let's say right now, is just you hear it and the performances, people say they sound perfect because they're made to sound perfect. You record a certain thing. A drummer's not supposed to play on the beat. That's not what music is about. It's supposed to move, and it's supposed to make you, like when you listen to Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, right? Or a bunch of AC/DC songs. When you listen to them, what makes your head go like this is that it's not playing right on the beat. So this producer went in and he fixed the drums to a grid, let's say. So every hit is sounding perfect. But the bass player recorded his bass part to what the drummer initially played. So now the new perfect drums and the bass don't sound together anymore. So then you got to take the bass and make the bass perfect. And now the guitar doesn't sit with the bass. So then you got to make the guitar perfect. And all of a sudden you have all the instruments all hitting at the exact same time. And that's what makes it sound kind of like what we call like robot rock, where everything's perfect, but it's almost so perfect that it's...
So it's about finding a balance between that, right? Perfect. You know, we definitely use, we don't, you know, the technology allows us creative freedom now. So knowing that you could fix anything at any time allows you to just jump in and do whatever you want, because it's not like it's going... You could take a piece of this, take a piece of that, move it around, and just capture the ideas as they happen, and then assemble them later, just like you would shoot a film. And that's how we record. We use technology as a tool to capture the creative ideas, as opposed to like making the songs as perfect as they can be.
Do you ever have a big difference in opinion on production? And someone else said, do you ever disagree? All the time.
Yeah, but it's never...
Generally we agree on the big stuff.
Yeah, but we find a way to get it to a common ground, and I think that in the end it makes it better than either of us on our own, right? It's that creative tension that takes it somewhere. It's like you hear a John Lennon solo, you hear a Paul McCartney solo, you put them both in a room, you have the Beatles, right? So it...
Can I be John Lennon in this metaphor?
You'd never be John Lennon in any metaphor. But like Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, same thing. You know, so it's the creative tension. Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. It's because you feed off the ideas, and if the goal is to be creative, and if the goal is to respect the creative process, and if the goal is to create music and to create art, in the end, you take it somewhere, right? It's not about creating. Like, it's not about just... We could knock out a song in an hour. We really could, and we could put it down and go, "Hey, that sounds cool," but it's not. It didn't challenge us, you know. So
yeah, that's exactly that. What you just said with art perfectly leads into this other question. I just lost it because it scrolled up. I mean, being too perfect is not that perfect. Apply it to, because music is art, and apply that to any other type of art. Mm-hmm. And if someone asks you, "Is that a perfect painting?"
Never.
Well, what's a perfect painting? There's no. Art is completely subjective. So if you can't have a perfect painting, you shouldn't have a perfect piece of music. There is no perfect piece of music. Whether it moves you or not is a totally different question. But whether anything is perfect in art seems a little ridiculous. It's like winning awards for music seems a little bit ridiculous. Like what do you measure success on? Is it sales? Is it impact? Is it artistic integrity? Is it musical performance?
Awards are generally judged by peers, right? So that everybody kind of understands the whole process, but it's become a bit perverse. That's a conversation for another day. But one more. Let's do one more, and then we'll run the song again, and thank everybody for hanging out.
Whose heartbeat is in the song?
Neither of us. That's a heartbeat that I think either George constructed or it came from... I think he constructed it with a synth. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's an actual real heartbeat. Yeah, I have to check with George.
This could go. These are great questions.
It's a great question. Seriously, thank you.
Okay, last one. Do you spend time apart to develop your music creativity?
Very much so on this phase. We had to. Like, it was, for me, it was about digging. Like, I spent most of last year relearning guitar with one of my favorite guitar players of all time, Brent Mason, and he's one of the best country guitar players on the planet, if not the best. Shania Twain, Alan Jackson, all like any country guitar solo you ever heard. Do we sound like country? No, but it was blowing my mind in such a way that it made me grow as a musician and change, and just the conversation. Exact connection to this song, the Gretsch that you hear was I was having a conversation. We were in the middle of tracking the guitars. I'm like, I'm working on this tune, Rise, blah blah blah, and I need this guitar rig. And he's like, oh, Gretsch, man. He like pulls out his and he goes, here. I'm like, that's it. And it was just a moment of having that conversation with a guy like that impacted the song directly. And that was it for me. And I know you were digging into a lot of areas, a lot of subject matters that you hadn't brought to the music before because the music didn't lend itself to that subject matter.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things. And people are always ask us all the time, how did you write that? Or the timeless, well, what comes first? Do you write the lyrics first? That doesn't really, I don't think that way at all. Do you write the music first? That doesn't, sometimes, but that's not really how we think either.
Right? We go through phases.
And it's got to be, we tend to write melody first. If one of us, because you can use different chords over the same melody. So we may hear 4 chords in a row, and that'll dictate, like these chords for this song do not dictate, I want you, I need you, I love you. It dictates like that to the,
there's an energy to it. So the lyric and the vocal had to be married to that. Yeah.
Had to be congruent. Word of the day.
We should, I think somewhere, we might actually have the original acoustic idea from the first day. At some point we should see if we can dig that up.
I'm sure we have it somewhere.
Okay.
All right.
Is that it? So you know what? Before we go, let's run the tune one more time. We post the link. The official audio should go live next Sunday, and it's going to go live on YouTube first. So you'll be able to stream it on there, and then eventually it'll hit Spotify and Apple Music. You'll be able to pre-save it on Spotify, I think, at some point very soon. So we'll post all the links. And if you're watching this on a replay somewhere, the links will be around the video. And if you're watching it live right now, Randy's going to post a link in the chat. We'll roll the official audio one more time. And seriously, thank you guys for being so welcoming and so positive about all the new stuff. The comments have been really, really nice to see, and it's good to be back. You know, we've had a lot of fun, and there's going to be a steady stream of music over the next year or two, where just every, you know, when it's ready, we'll release it, and we're just going to move on like that, and and just keep this creative process moving forward.
And hopefully putting out more of the best stuff we could possibly put out, the best music we can possibly put out. So thank you guys.
Seriously, thank you so much for hanging out. And
questions were great.
Yeah, and I'm going to roll this again. We're going to rock to it, and we'll hang out to the end and see you soon.
Sometimes I feel we're living in a world on fire.